How to fix random controller movements on specific maps. Welcome back to Teknobalta. Today, we are tackling a frustrating software issue where your controller suddenly starts making random, uncontrollable movements during gameplay. We noticed this erratic behavior specifically triggers only when loading into one or two specific map environments. During our initial testing in the standard tower modes, everything seemed perfectly fine until these specific stages loaded in. Once the problematic maps appeared on screen, the character would start jumping left and right, attacking randomly, or getting completely stuck. We verified that the gamepad itself was fully functional by running standard hardware tests for 15 minutes, proving this is strictly a software conflict. Our team first attempted the most common troubleshooting step, which involves verifying the integrity of the game files through the launcher. While this is usually a solid preliminary check, we found that the validation process completes successfully without fixing the erratic controller behavior. Reinstalling the application entirely also yields the exact same frustrating results on those specific maps. At Teknobalta, we dug deeper into the input processing system and discovered that the game engine is struggling to translate legacy direct input signals. If you are using a non-Xinput device, the button mappings get completely messed up during specific memory loads. To resolve this, we need to bridge the communication gap using a specialized emulator called X360C. The first step in our definitive fix is to download the X360C application directly from its official code repository. Make sure you are grabbing the correct architecture version that matches your game executable, which is typically the 64-bit release. Avoid downloading this tool from unverified third-party websites to keep your operating system completely secure. Once you have the compressed archive downloaded, unpack the application into a temporary folder on your desktop. We highly recommend creating a dedicated folder just for this setup process to keep the generated configuration files organized. Do not launch the application straight from the compressed archive, as it needs full permission to write new files. Launch the X360C executable, and you will immediately be prompted to create an Xinput dynamically linked library file. Allow the application to create this critical file, as it is the core component that tricks the game into recognizing your generic gamepad as a native controller. The software will then ask to search the internet for the best button mapping profile for your specific device. We advise letting the application automatically configure your gamepad by pulling the most popular settings from its global database. Once the automatic configuration is complete, test every single button, trigger, and analog stick to ensure the on-screen display matches your physical inputs. If any axis or button is inverted, manually click on the corresponding drop-down menu and reassign it by pressing the correct physical button. After verifying that your inputs are perfectly mapped and responding smoothly, click the Save button located at the bottom right of the application window. Saving this configuration generates a file named X360C, ini, which contains all your customized input coordinates. You can now safely exit the emulator application entirely to proceed with the installation. Now, we need to navigate to the exact installation directory of your game to apply this custom fix. Open your primary digital library, right-click the title in your list, navigate to the local files section, and click Browse. From this root folder, you must dig into the specific binary directories where the actual game executable is located. For this specific title, navigate through the main Mortal Kombat X folder, open the binaries directory, and finally open the retail folder. This retail folder is the critical destination where the engine looks for input configuration, overrides upon startup. Copy the X360C ini configuration file you generated earlier and paste it directly into this retail folder. To ensure maximum compatibility, our team found an additional configuration step that guarantees the controller hook works flawlessly every single time. You need to create a simple text document in this exact same retail folder and name it X360C. GDB. Ensure that Windows file extensions are visible so you are actually changing the file type and not just naming it with a text extension. Open this newly created file with any standard text editor and prepare to input our specific hook mask variables. On the very first line, write the game executable name exactly within square brackets, which is MK10 EXE. On the second line, specify the display name by typing name equals Mortal Kombat X. The most critical part of this custom document is the third line, which forces the game engine to prioritize our emulated inputs over its broken native support. Type hook mask equals 0x00000002, exactly as shown, ensuring there are no extra spaces or missing characters. Save this text file and close your editor, ensuring it remains in the Binaries Retail folder alongside your configuration file. Before launching the game, we strongly recommend bypassing any overlapping controller configurations provided by your digital storefront. Navigate to your game properties, select the Controller tab, and choose the option to strictly disable external input processing. This ensures that only our freshly created X360C configuration is handling the raw controller data. Additionally, our team suggests plugging your controller directly into the rear USB ports on your motherboard rather than a front panel hub. Direct motherboard connections offer much more stable polling rates and prevent random disconnects that can break the emulation software. Always ensure your generic gamepad has the latest firmware installed from the manufacturer if applicable. Launch the game and navigate directly to one of the maps that previously caused the erratic jumping and attacking. You will immediately notice that the controller now behaves perfectly, with no ghost inputs or freezing character models. The emulator is now successfully translating your analog stick dead zones and button presses without any engine conflicts. If you ever decide to switch to a native Xinput controller in the future, simply delete the files we placed in the retail folder. Leaving them there with a natively supported peripheral might cause double input glitches in the main menus. Our team has verified this solution works universally across different generic gamepads, experiencing this exact map-specific bug. Don't forget to follow Teknobalta for more.